We were at a party, and my wife, Sarah, and her girlfriends were playing Truth or Dare. They were supposed to tell each other their biggest secrets. Sarah just casually said to the group, "Honestly, I never loved Alex." Everyone went silent for a moment, and then they started screaming loudly, completely shocked. Someone reminded them, "All right, stop now. Isn't Alex coming to pick you up soon? It wouldn't be good if he heard that." But Sarah, acting like it was no big deal, said, "Even if he heard, I'd say it to his face. He's completely in love with me, and he's too afraid to say a word against me." Hearing all of this made me feel like I had been thrown into a freezing cold place. She wasn't wrong. I loved her completely, and I couldn't stand to see her upset about anything. I never expected that I was just a temporary person in her heart. In an instant, I felt like all my strength was gone. I found myself sitting back in the car downstairs, not even sure how I got there. I loved her so much, and yet I was just her substitute. As I thought back about our past, I remembered meeting Sarah at a party. Back then, I was just working part-time as a waiter, and she was the most important person at the event. She was dressed sharply and looked incredibly beautiful. Many people were trying to get her attention, but she seemed uninterested. At the party, she drank quite a bit. As the party was ending, I saw a rich guy leading her away. At first, I thought it was what she wanted, but then I noticed she was trying to get away from him. I rushed in to help and ended up getting beaten up because of it, getting a bad cut. At the hospital, the doctor told me I was lucky the cut wasn't deep, or it would have been hard to fix. After they put a bandage on me, I was ready to leave. But Sarah insisted I stay for a few days so the doctors could watch me. In the days that followed, she visited me every day. Eventually, as we spent time together, she held me and cried. "It's been so long," she said, "since anyone risked themselves for me like that. Do you like me? Would you want to be with me?" Sarah was 3 years older than me. She was stunning and had a great personality. I had no reason not to love her. I nodded without even thinking, and soon we were kissing passionately. I don't remember exactly how we spent that night, but every time we were intimate, she would whisper a name. Michael. It made me smile sadly. I realized that I was just a stand-in for Michael all along. I pulled out my phone and called my boss. When he answered, he said, "Alex, I hope you'll think about it again. This is a rare chance, and I have high hopes for you. That's why I pushed for it. I know you're attached to your girlfriend, but..." Something about what he said struck a chord with me. Everyone knew I loved Sarah very much. She knew it too, yet it seemed she only saw it as something to brag about. "I've decided," I said. "I'll take it." There was surprise from the other end of the line. "Well, that's great news," he said. "With international studies, you're sure to become a key person at our aerospace unit. I had earned a master's degree and joined a place that worked on aerospace technology, working under a mentor who was also the leader of our unit. With his guidance, I quickly moved up, and he often talked proudly about me, saying I had a strong foundation and a lot of knowledge. He suggested I study abroad to learn more, expecting it would take 2 years. He thought that the future of aerospace in our country would need more leaders who knew about things happening around the world. Initially, I had thought about it, but now I saw no reason not to go. After all, to her, I was just a stand-in. After hanging up, I stepped outside for a smoke when my phone buzzed again. It was Sarah calling. I hesitated, but answered. "Alex," she said, "the party is almost over. I'm tired. Are you here yet?" "Just got here," I said. "I'll come right up." I quickly got myself together and headed upstairs. Sarah came out of the room, still looking flushed from the evening. "Sarah," her girlfriends teased. "We're jealous you found such a great catch from the aerospace sector. Tall, handsome, and smart." Sarah chuckled. "You all envy me for nothing," she said. "Come on, my sweet little brother." She smiled sweetly as she took my arm, and we headed out. There was a faint smell of her perfume. "Did you smoke earlier?" she asked, wrinkling her nose. Yeah, sorry, I said. Just some stress from work. I usually avoided smoking around her since I knew she didn't like it. As I was talking, I glanced at her stomach. It still wasn't showing much. It seemed she hadn't been pregnant for very long. I wondered when it had happened. Perhaps when she traveled abroad for work a few months ago. As a top magazine editor, she often traveled. Maybe that's when she conceived with Michael. Perhaps in the car, she had the window slightly open, letting the wind blow her hair in a way that looked very appealing. Her favorite music played softly. As the car drove on, I couldn't help asking, "Who's Michael?" She had been singing along, but turned to me. "Oh," she said, "just my ex-husband." She laughed freely, never seeming to care much about my feelings. Sensing my silence, she teasingly added, "Ah, jealous much." I knew these were her ways of trying to make the situation less tense. "Nope," I said. The car pulled up at our home. She walked in, kicking off her shoes everywhere, just like always. Then she would wait for me to go get her slippers. I was already prepared. She put them on and lay lazily on the couch. She liked to watch TV before sleeping, while I was an early riser. No words were spoken between us that night. The next morning she left early and told me she had an event that night and might not come back home. What she didn't know was that I had already seen a message from Michael on her phone before she woke up. 7 p.m., the usual spot, the message said. I scrolled through their conversation history. It turned out Michael was back in town today. In their chats, Sarah gently advised him, "Wear something warm when you return tomorrow. It's raining." "I've set up your hotel room for a week," she wrote. "Just give your name at the front desk. Don't worry, I'll be in your favorite business suit with black stockings when we meet." With Michael, her tone was gentle and thoughtful. But with me, she seemed like a child who needed everything done for her, even having her slippers and underwear washed by hand by me. I never could have imagined that someone who was so dependent on me would be so tender and caring with someone else. Looking at those messages, I realized the difference between love and not caring. If she didn't love him, why would she go through the trouble of having Michael's child? As I watched Sarah leave, I headed to work. Once I arrived, my mentor called me into his office. "Alex," he said warmly, "I've seen you grow, and I'm so glad you took on this challenge. Our country's space program hasn't been easy, and we need responsible people like you to take over. We're getting old." His hair was white. He had spent his entire life dedicated to China's space industry, a selfless spirit I admired greatly. "Sir," I said, "I'm ready. When do we leave?" "No rush," he said. "You've got a month to prepare. Make sure you talk things over with your wife. There's going to be some intense training where you'll be living away from home. You understand, right?" "Yes, I get it," I said. After a brief chat, I went back to work. After finishing work for the day, I met with a divorce attorney. We had already discussed things over the phone, so this meeting was mostly about writing up the papers. "Alex," he said, "here's the draft of the divorce agreement. Take a look." "Sure," I said. I read through it carefully, then left the office with the papers in hand. Once I got home, I began packing my things. My eyes caught a calendar hanging on the wall with today marked by a red circle. I started counting down in my head. I sighed deeply, staring at those marked numbers. Time to fix something to eat. Around 9:30 p.m., after handling some work issues, I got ready to relax. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Sarah. I was curious. Wasn't she supposed to be with Michael? When I answered, it wasn't Sarah's voice, but her best friend, Emily. "Alex, where are you?" she said. "Sarah's had an accident. You need to come to the hospital." She sounded frantic. Before I could respond, she added, "Hurry now," I agreed, flagging down a taxi on my way out. At the hospital, I saw her friend Emily, and Michael was there too. I glanced at him, keeping my composure. Suddenly, a doctor rushed over. "What are you standing here for?" he said. "Blood tests now. Who's Sarah's family?" I am, I said. Sign this, he said. The patient's bleeding heavily and needs surgery. What kind of husband lets his pregnant wife drink? The doctor reprimanded me. Now she's lost the baby, and she's in critical condition. I didn't argue, just signed the form. You're such an irresponsible spouse, he said. Your wife's in trouble, and another man brings her in. His words stung, making me chuckle coldly, feeling sad about my situation. My laughter was directed at myself, mocking my pathetic excuse for a husband. Sarah knew she was pregnant, yet she chose to drink with Michael, ignoring the risks just to please him. Seeing her on the bed, still in her business outfit and stockings, left me silent. They wheeled her into surgery soon after. Emily turned to me. Alex, she said, she's pregnant, and you let her drink? What kind of husband are you? Michael avoided looking at me. Now that you're here, he said, I've got things to attend to. He turned to leave. Michael, in his early 30s, looked sharp in a suit, handsome and giving off a mature charm. I suddenly grabbed him and punched him. You bastard! I yelled. How could you? Blood trickled from his lip as he moved to hit me back. But Emily intervened. Sarah's going into surgery, and you two are fighting here? Michael smirked at me as he said, Alex, when it comes to Sarah, you'll never be as good as me. He said those words and walked away. I watched his back, thinking he might not know that the child Sarah lost wasn't mine. It was his. The punch I threw earlier wasn't for Sarah, but for myself. The surgery went okay. When Sarah came out of the operating room, she was barely alive. She looked pale, with tubes all over her body. She got a little better by the next day. As soon as she was somewhat conscious, she called out, Michael! She clutched my hand and said, Michael, I'm glad you're here. Her words felt like 1,000 needles piercing my heart, leaving it in pieces. Even at this point, she still praised Michael. Michael didn't care about her health, and that's why she lost the child. After the anesthesia wore off, she was already calling Michael's name. I figured this must be true love. Only true love can go this far. A nurse came in just then. Alex, she said, here's the hospital bill. Sign it if everything looks fine. Yeah, I replied. I'll sign it and pay later. I sat by the bed, looking at Sarah's messy state. She always appeared rational, educated, and fashionable to me. How did she end up like this? Around noon, as Sarah started to fully wake up, I handed her the hospital bill for her to sign. I also quietly put in our divorce agreement. After she signed, she suddenly burst into tears, saying, Alex, I'm sorry. I couldn't save our child. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but my heart remained untouched. She wasn't crying for our child. She was crying for hers and Michael's. And while the tears were real, they weren't for me. Hold me, Alex, she said, reaching out. But I didn't embrace her. After she finished crying, I left to pay the bill. Because of my work, I hired a caregiver for Sarah. A week later, I picked Sarah up from the hospital. By then, I had already drawn 7 or 8 red circles on the calendar on my wall. When we got inside, Sarah noticed everything was a bit messy. Usually when Sarah came home, I'd make sure everything was tidy, no matter how busy I was. My goal was to have a comfortable place for her. Been busy? She noticed. The room's not cleaned. Yeah, I replied. Work's been busy lately. She nodded and looked at me, waiting for slippers. I handed them to her, and she walked in. Why the red circles on the calendar? She asked. The question almost caught me off guard. Work might need me to travel soon, I said. I initially wanted to have a proper talk with Sarah, but she seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly, not really listening. Then her phone rang, and she quickly hung up, smiling. Sure, I have time. No worries, I'll be there. I'm fine, just minor stuff. Her face lit up with a smile she couldn't hide. She seemed incredibly happy. After hanging up, she looked at me, finally remembering I was there. I've been in the hospital for a week. she said. "I need to catch up at work." "All right," I nodded, not saying much else or asking further questions. Dragging her weak body, she began gathering her things. She dressed up nicely, but no amount of makeup could hide how pale she was. When she left, I didn't mind. Honestly, my feelings for her had gradually faded. I became clearer about my life goals. As days passed, I marked 29 red circles on the calendar. Just one day to go. Seeing the departure date nearing, I felt relieved. Close to the end of the workday, I got a text from Sarah. "Tonight's your birthday," she wrote. "I booked a restaurant and got you a gift. I'll send the address. Be there at 8, "Sure," I replied. After staring at the text for a few seconds, I didn't expect her to remember my birthday. Realizing it might be our last meal together, I agreed. After work, I packed up my things. My colleagues were surprised. "Alex, the workaholic," someone said. "Leaving early? That's rare." Embarrassed, I chuckled. I had wrapped up my tasks, and it felt right to head out early. After saying that, I checked the time and thought it was time to go. Sarah had picked a popular spot, and it would definitely be heavy traffic during rush hour. It might take an hour to get there. I preferred arriving early. I got there around 7 and sat in the restaurant waiting. As it neared 8, and Sarah hadn't appeared, I thought she might not show up. Then she walked in, wearing a black dress, her makeup flawless, looking stunning. Once seated, she said, "Brother, I almost ran late, but luckily didn't miss your birthday." She spoke with such charm. "Here's your gift," she said, pulling out a watch. "Do you like it?" I took it, glanced at it, and said, "Yes, I like it." She hardly ever gives me gifts, so this time she must have done it on a whim. Maybe it was guilt from not having my child. "If you like it, I'll help you put it on," she said as she leaned over to put the watch on me. But just as she was about to, her phone rang again. She looked at it, but didn't answer. When it rang a second time, she picked up. "Alex, sorry," she said. "There's an emergency at work. I have to go." "Okay," I said calmly. "You go take care of it." She got up to leave and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, apologizing. I wiped her saliva off my face and watched her walk away with a bitter smile. Not long after, a server came over with a cake. Seeing I was alone, the atmosphere got awkward. Still, they called over some colleagues to sing me happy birthday. "Thank you," I said. Back in my room around 10 p.m., I opened my social media absent-mindedly and saw a post from Sarah's friend, Emily. It was a picture of Sarah and Michael hugging, surrounded by people cheering, and them kissing passionately. Sarah's lip looked almost bruised from the kiss. The crowd around them chanted, "Together! Together!" Sarah gazed at Michael with eyes she never had for me. I guess that's what love looks like. I probably was never loved by Sarah. Thinking about it, I was always just a stand-in for Michael. I had no right to be loved. The two locked eyes and started kissing again, hands all over each other. I suddenly felt if it weren't for the crowd, they might have gone further right there. Sarah's friend had captioned it, "Lovers always find their way to each other." She must have forgotten to block me from seeing it, but it hardly mattered. I closed my phone and walked to the calendar. I marked the last circle. My heart was finally at peace. Before leaving, I sent Sarah a message. "Sarah," I wrote, "let's get a divorce." After sending it, I packed and headed to the airport by midnight. After checking in, I boarded the plane. It took off shortly, much like I knew my life was about to do. After a flight of over 10 hours, I landed. A girl around my age greeted me at the airport. She looked Asian. I was surprised when I met her. I tried speaking English, but she replied in Chinese. "Alex," she said, "I know you. You're an expert in aerospace. I've heard of you." Her words caught me off guard. It wasn't something I expected. "Hi," she said. "I'm Amy, your colleague. I came 2 months earlier from another aerospace unit back home. I'm here to welcome you." "Thank you," I said politely. I appreciate it. We chatted a bit. Amy handed me a SIM card for local use. I turned on my phone and saw no messages. Sarah was probably still wrapped up with Michael. I switched out my SIM card and broke the old one. Amy then took me on a taxi ride, explaining some basic things about living abroad. She seemed gentle and kind, and patient too. That's the impression I got in our short meeting. After getting settled, Amy accompanied me to buy some essential things. We all gathered for a meal with others who were also there to study. Then it was back to learning. We studied at a research facility led by a distinguished figure from back home. That's how we got this opportunity. Our days were fulfilling. In 6 months, time flew by. I studied diligently and shared my ideas. A year later, I successfully published a paper that made waves in the aerospace community. It even made the news. At the celebration, Amy looked at me with stars in her eyes. "Alex," she said, "you're truly a remarkable young expert from home. Achieving this in just a year is unbelievable. It's inspiring." I just smiled and didn't say much in response. I treated everyone to dinner that night. The season had brought cold weather and falling snow. On our way back, I saw a figure under a street lamp. It was Sarah. Her appearance surprised me. Her eyes reddened as she ran towards me, shouting, "Alex, I finally found you!" She threw herself into my arms. Amy looked awkwardly at the scene. "Alex, is this—" I didn't explain and told Amy, "You should head back." She nodded, turned, and left without another word. I gently pushed Sarah off. She looked at me, tears streaming. "Alex," she said, "you're such a jerk. Do you know how long I've been searching for you?" "You didn't need to find me," I said. "We have no ties now." "Who says we don't?" she insisted. "I refuse to accept the divorce." Her face still looked heartbreakingly beautiful. I stayed silent, unsure how to respond. "Don't worry, Alex," she said. "I'll change and become the perfect wife for you." "No thanks," I said. "Are you with Michael this time?" She paused for a second, looking a bit awkward. She had a strange look on her face. "Michael and I aren't anything," she said. "Don't get the wrong idea." Seeing me staring at her, she seemed a bit guilty and continued, "He was my first love, but we haven't been in touch much. We only talked for work. You know I'm the chief editor of a top fashion magazine in the country. Michael has been in the industry for years and has resources that could help me progress." "You don't have to explain," I said. "I get it." Listening to her now, I felt nothing emotionally. "Do you know how hard I've been trying to find you lately?" she said. "Without you, my place feels empty. No one cooks for me or brings me slippers. No one massages me when I'm tired or takes care of me. Alex, I can't live without you," she said emotionally. It was funny how he didn't care when I was around. Now she had traveled so far to say these fancy words. It just seemed so absurdly laughable. "You can just hire a maid for that," I said. "Besides, I'm not your maid." I said those words, turned around, and left. "Are you really that cruel?" her voice called from behind. I stayed silent, having no idea how to respond. In the end, I simply didn't. Sure enough, not long after I went inside, I saw a car pick her up through the window. The next day, Amy approached me curiously, asking who Sarah was. "My ex-wife," I said. "Oh," she said. "Is she wanting to get back together?" "Yeah, she is," I answered truthfully. "Oh," Amy said. She looked slightly worried, but it disappeared quickly. Then she cautiously asked, "Are you guys getting back together?" I stared at Amy for a few seconds. Before long, her face turned red. "Why are you staring at me?" she asked awkwardly. "Is there something on my face?" "Nothing on your face," I said, "but you definitely have something on your mind. Focus on your studies and don't worry about adult stuff." "I'm an adult, too," Amy said. After knowing each other for a year, I realized Amy was just in her early 20s. She had skipped grades in school, a young prodigy type. She finished her master's degree before her mid-20s. She's got a natural talent for aerospace, so she was sent abroad for training without any problems. "I'm not a kid," she said. "I'm an adult, too. Alex, can't you treat me like an adult?" "Sure I can," I said. Amy's face brightened with joy. "Really?" she asked. "Yeah," I said with a light smile. "Once you grow up, I'll treat you like an adult." Amy got mad, waving her fists at me, looking adorably angry. Over the next few days, Sarah tried to meet me whenever she could, but I turned her down, saying I was busy. During that time, Amy seemed a bit distracted from her studies. I asked Amy if something was bothering her recently. Amy denied it. "You definitely have something going on?" I said. "Tell me, maybe I can help." I looked at Amy. She had a cute look, with big eyes. She looked up at me. After a while, she started talking about all sorts of unimportant things. She went on for about half an hour, never really getting to the point. I wasn't in a rush. I just kept chatting about academic stuff with her, mentioning nothing else. Finally, Amy seemed like she couldn't hold it in anymore and said, "Alex, are you and your ex-wife getting back together?" "Why are you asking?" I said. "Just curious," Amy replied. I paused a bit and said, "No." Hearing that, the worry on Amy's face quickly faded. "Really?" she said happily. "That's great." "Why are you so happy that I'm not getting back with her?" I asked. That made Amy feel a bit guilty again. "I'm not happy," she said. "I'm happy for you, Alex. You're such a good person. If that woman divorced you back then, it was definitely her loss. Plus, that woman looked suspicious. If you reunite, you'll just get hurt again. So I'm glad for you." "You know," Amy said, her eyes darting around. Her words made my expression change slightly. "Oh, I see," I said. "I thought there was another reason." "What other reason could there be?" she asked. "Just this one," Amy said. "I see it differently, Alex." "Amy's got hidden reasons for liking you," a colleague suddenly said, joining our conversation. Amy blushed instantly, jumping up with her hands ready to attack. The guy backed off, saying, "No need to get violent. Let's talk, negotiate. Let's pretend I never said that." Time passed with this kind of friendly talk. Finally, it was the day Sarah was flying home. That day she asked me to dinner, saying it would be a farewell meal for us, asking if I was willing. After some thought, I agreed. I was supposed to have dinner with some colleagues tonight, so I had to inform them I'd be having dinner with Sarah. After letting them know, I left. Amy told me, "Go have dinner, but come back early." "Sure," I replied. Before long, I met up with Sarah. Looking at me, Sarah said, "Alex, we were strangers." "I hope this is our last meeting," I said. Sarah's expression changed slightly at that, but she didn't say more. "Okay." During the meal, she started to cry again. I didn't say a word. I waited until the meal was over. Sarah got up to leave and said to me, "I won't forget you." I just looked out the window, pretending I hadn't heard anything. That was our last meal together before she returned to her home country. I went ahead and blocked all her contacts again. On my way back, it was already pretty late. When I got to my doorstep, I saw a figure standing under the streetlight. I walked towards it, feeling a bit on guard. After all, at night, the safety around here isn't that great. But when I got closer, I was surprised to see who it was. It was Amy. Seeing Amy standing there caught me off guard. I didn't expect her to be here. The weather was cold outside, and she was shivering by herself. "What are you doing here?" I couldn't help but ask. Amy looked up at me, her face red from the cold. "I was waiting for you to come home," she said. Her voice sounded a bit like a child's. "Waiting for me? Why?" "Just to see you come back," she said, sounding unsure. I kept watching her, and she seemed to hesitate under my gaze. Her eyes got a little watery. I was afraid you wouldn't come home, she confessed. Where would I go if not home? I asked, slightly annoyed. I was afraid you'd run off with some other woman, she said suddenly. Tears started streaming down her face. It's dangerous out here at night, I said. You know that, right? If you want to wait, you could wait inside. But if I waited inside, she replied, I wouldn't see you come back. Let's go inside, I said, inviting her in, but she didn't want to move. What's wrong? I asked. Amy suddenly looked serious and said, Alex, there's something important I need to tell you. What? I asked. I want to be with you, she said, clenching her fists like she had made a huge decision. We'll talk about this later, I said. No way, she insisted. You have to say something now. Looking at her, I felt her seriousness too. The truth is, I had a soft spot for Amy. I thought back to all the little moments we'd shared. Is it because you're older and divorced? She asked, almost reading my mind. I nodded. Yeah, it is, I said. I don't care, she said as she grabbed my hand. If you don't say no, I'll take it as a yes. Okay, I finally said after a moment. And just like that, Amy and I got together. After graduating, we returned home and went to a secret base together, spending 3 years on a secret project. 3 years later, we finally got married. After that, I heard Sarah was being blackmailed by Michael for money. He threatened to show some embarrassing photos of them if she didn't pay. Sarah couldn't handle it after a few times and eventually reported him to the police. Michael got arrested, and Sarah lost her job over it. I didn't hear about her again, but those things don't concern me much anymore. All that matters is living a happy life with Amy.